Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna review what happened. I got this account on the 19th, had a first trade on the 20th. We started doing very well. Our first bad trade was because we broke our rules. First bad trade was this trade, simply because I came back in. Well, this day I should say, simply because I came back in and I took a trade when I shouldn't have. But what I really want to review is this week. This week was NFP week, and I told myself I'm not going to trade, yet I kept getting back on and trading, and literally ended up blowing the account, which is extremely unfortunate. So we're just going to have to review everything to see what I did right, what I did wrong, because I'm disappointed in myself. The 920 macro, but I missed it. Once I missed it, and the entry I wanted was valid, I counter trend traded. Took a long off a breaker and it didn't even form. It was purely an emotional trade. So I had my first setup here. We had our higher time frame breakers created for short. Everything was pointing short. I hesitated here. I didn't take it. Then what happened was we ran to my liquidity where I thought, and then I impulse bought while all these breakers are still valid. Let's create our notion. And what we're going to name it is trade reviews. All right, so number one thing I did wrong. Fading on bias after missing initial entry. That was correct. That was number one. That was the first thing we did wrong. I faded my own bias. My bias was short. I thought we are going to go short. We did go short, and then I faded my own bias because now I'm like, okay, I want to be right. That's that trade. What happened here? I think this trade I opened up right after that, and I thought this was impulse buy, and then I got out. So number two is impulse. Impulse entry. My impulses were controlled for a while, and now I'm starting to break it. After the first two trades, mental capital is expended. I no longer trusted myself. This would have hit TP, but it would have paid a lot. So now I went back to my original bias. Same day. Went back to my original bias. This would have went really far. It wouldn't have hit TP, but it would have paid because I would have closed it early. So what did I do? Close early. I exited the position early. And I'm going to put a 1, 2, however many times I did these things, so I know what my biggest issues are. I wanted an early entry, but caught myself hesitating and not trusting myself. Price was choppy, but the breakers are super valid. So this is another instance where I hesitated. So now this is twice that we did this. The first entry that we missed, we hesitated. We hesitated and we didn't trust. I didn't trust my own bias, so I missed it. So then what did I do? I impulse bought. This is an impulse entry. Even though it was valid, I missed my entry. I should have not taken it. Whether I made money here or not, this was not a good trade. Okay, so already on Monday, we have negative $405. We faded our own bias. I impulsed twice, exited my position early, and then I hesitated twice. 920 macro. What do we have? Another early exit when I knew that price would run to TP. We were super bearish, but I let one small bullish PD array cause me to scare me out. Okay, that's a huge thing. I'm glad I wrote that because this happens a lot also. So number one is we exited position early. I let smaller time frames dictate my decision. We were super bearish, but I let one small time frame PD array scare me out. Where was this? Boom. This 1 minute. This would have ran to TP. So we would have made $950, but instead we made $125. Just like I need a confirmation to enter, I also need a confirmation to exit. I will not exit any trade if there are multiple PD arrays pointing to the draw on liquidity simply because of one counter PD array. Now this happens a lot. Happened today. I have confidence in my setups. I know they work. All right. Another one. What do we have? I let a 15-second breaker decide my entry when I clearly said I needed a 1 minute at least because of how bearish price was. Got out early, realized I was wrong. Simply a stop hunt. So, what do we do? Impulse, entry, smaller time frames dictate, exit position early. This was a good exit position early, but the thing is, if I take a trade, I need to have full confidence in it, whether it's TP or stop loss. Why am I going to exit position? If I'm taking this position, it's because I am believing that it's going to work. What did I do here? We're super bearish. We had this 1 minute forming, but it did not. This 1 minute bearish breaker formed, but I took a buy off of a 15-second bullish breaker, which was silly. That wasn't the right thing to do. So a 5 and 15 forming and get validated, enter and retest, stop loss almost hit, came back to exit. Exit on failure to push hard. I don't even know what my stop loss was, but look at this. We would have had a way too big of a stop loss here. Unless we put our stop right here. So this might have been kind of valid. But we were counter trend trading, which works if there's a pool of liquidity taken, which there wasn't. So what's the conciseness here? We took a counter trend trade when there's a big pool of liquidity still intact. So what is this mistake? Looking for a reversal when liquidity has not been taken. We look for a reversal when there's no liquidity taken. This was a lucky trade, and we would have failed this. These three trades were a call out by somebody on the Discord channel. This trade was valid. March 6th, 146. 146, and we exited right here when we should have been holding to the lows. Or look at all of this liquidity that we could have held to. So all these lows got taken had I held. Well, okay, so I entered at the bottom of this candle closure. Two R. This is what I should have done right here. This would have been a 2R. But I exited early. This was a panic exit. Exit position early. There's only one reason I would exit the position early. Panicking. First of all, I missed my macro. Why am I taking shorts here? This was yesterday. And I clearly remembered this because this would have been such a perfect trade. Such a perfect trade had I held this yesterday. Thursday on the 7th, which was over here. Let's replay this to end the day. I took a short at 201. So I guess I saw this breaker. Closure below it. High was swept right here. Yeah, look, you could use this 1 minute right here. High, low, higher high, swept. This 1 minute was validated right here. But I was getting the early entry. Where did I take it? My stop loss was above this high. I clearly remember this yesterday because I was pretty annoyed about it. And you could have just targeted right here. 59 points. Exited early. Where did I exit? Exited at 215 here. Before I even reached the highs, because I used this high as my validation, which was just silly. So right there, exit early. Another one. This would have been 59 points. And then I entered again, and then I kept my stop too tight again. Then I impulsed back in, and then I exited early again out of fear. Because no matter what, if this is the breaker right here, high, low, higher, high, my stop should be right here. But it wasn't. And then I missed this massive move. Literally would have passed me the trade, the challenge. Waited all day, got this beautiful trade, missed it. Then I'm impulsing back in again. Chasing, missed trade, impulsed. 6. Impatient. I didn't wait for a retracement. I impulsed back in. I didn't wait for a retracement. I should have had a retracement at least 50% of the way to take a short. A minimum 50%. And then if I took it here, had to stop above this high, 30 points is still a huge stop. But we could have targeted minimum 1-to-1. And then today, first of all, NFP day. Should be a no trade day. At all. I don't need to trade NFP. No, I haven't wrote anything on these yet, but we took a long. So I even said I felt like we're going to run for these highs at open. I saw that we created this breaker, so I used a 15-second breaker, and I got stopped out. And I impulsed back in, and I got stopped out twice. This is just post NFP. This was just, I should not have traded this. See, now we have a high, low, higher, high. Now we could take a short. Stop loss above the highs. We created this breaker on the 1 minute and the 5 minutes simply to run for this liquidity. But on the higher time frame, we had our bullish breaker. We're having a little downtrend, a little retracement. We make our low, we make our high. We sweep the low on the 5 minute. Come back in with NFP. Leave these highs intact. Come back in. I should have waited for the retest of the breaker. Should have waited for the retest of the breaker. But how am I supposed to know? By doing this, back test. It's NFP on days like this. I should have waited. This 15-second was valid, but this 1 minute was not. Why? Yes, we had a body closure, but these wicks were kind of weak. We should have simply waited for the 1 minute to be validated. But if we did that, our stop loss would have been even greater, and we would have took even a bigger loss. So this is just simply trading on NFP. Even if the bias is correct, NFP is meant to destroy. I took another buy. We had another stop run. We had two stop runs, one here, and then we went to the target. These are the two things that I need to work on. Exiting my position early and impulsing into my trade early. All of this has to do with patience. All of this has to do with patience. So what do? How do I beat this and create the patience that I need? I have to be okay with missing a trade. You have to be okay with missing a trade. Simple as that. I don't know what else to say. I guess we'll try again Monday. I shouldn't have traded NFP. Fade my own bias. That happened only once in 2 weeks, so I'm actually very, very happy about that. That used to be a big problem. That's corrected. I hesitated twice. That's okay. That's going to happen. Letting smaller time frames. I could even put this for NFP maybe. No. Impulse entry and exit position early is what I need to work on. If I didn't exit my positions early, I would have passed the challenge. If I didn't impulse back in, chasing it, if I didn't do those two things, we would have passed. So going into next week, my number one thing is going to be not exiting position early, because exiting the position early is what causes me to impulse the trade back in. This leads to that. Exiting early leads to this. Exiting my position early leads to me chasing the trade, so I cannot do that again. That's what I'm going to be working on next week.